body bags where horror lies.
Now take my bitch. She won't complain about shit cause she's my hoe. She don't belong to a trick, so when you fuck her and give her all your cash, I get paid. I put my foot in her ass, I won't marry the bitch and give her half, I get mohead. And then I laugh at that one bitch shit. I got a gang of hoes, I get freak ass lick these balls and toes.
Now stupid little bitches get tossed if they don't realize that I'm the motherfucking boss. Come on down and get your ass pinched. And if you talk shit, get your ass lynched. Cause I'm the B, the I, the T, the C, the H, the K, the I, the L, the L, the A, Sean B. A boy that's bigger than a nut. Cause a bitch is a bitch, is a hoe, is a slut.
You say, how can I call a woman a bitch? It ain't nothing but a word like shit. Ain't no slipping in my motherfucking pimpin'. And all bitches ain't women, yo.
Yo, what's up everybody? Welcome to week 85 here on Body Bags. I'm your host Moodz616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Alrighty, yeah, week 85 is here, and it is documentary week. I'm not entirely sure who picked this one. It might have been Critterbuster or Chris that picked documentaries, and good one, you know. Love me some documentaries. Now, I've been sitting on this one for such a long time. I've never checked it out. I've watched pretty much every film in this box set, but I've never checked out the documentary and wanted to check it out so bad, so that's why I went with this one this week. It's from 2001, and it is called The Strange World of Mohiya Marins, or also known as The Strange World of Coffin Joe, not to be confused with the 1968 film of the same title. This is the documentary from 2001. And of course it's about Coffin Joe. I probably butchered his name of Mohiya Marins, but I don't know. It's kind of tough to say, but oddly enough, this is like pretty much the only documentary about Coffin Joe. I think that's very strange considering like how iconic he is now in the, you know, in the horror realm, in the horror world and stuff. So I find it very interesting there hasn't been more, you know, documentaries shot about this, you know, Mohiya Marins, because he's just a very interesting guy. So but yeah, my thoughts on this one. It basically, the documentary, in my opinion, is the major problem with this one. I don't like to start with problems, but it's just too short. I'll get that right off the top here. It's just too short. This one only runs about 65 minutes, so basically only scratches the surface of what you really want to see or hear from, you know, the Coffin Joe, you know, legacy, or the, you know, Mohiya Marins. Now, the documentary starts out, of course, with his history, you know, his personal history. You know, he explains how he grew up in, you know, in Brazil, very kind of poor. His father was a manager of a theater, and he like literally lived in the theater with his mom and dad. And so he was exposed at such a young age to film, and he basically said that he watched film 24 hours a day. And he also goes on to explain that that's how he learned how to do film himself, just watching film, just kind of learn the techniques that way. And you know, he goes on to say, you know, you don't learn how to do films in school, you learn how to do films by watching films and being creative yourself. I thought that was kind of interesting. He's super poor. Of course, he gets into filmmaking, and he starts doing some other type of films, and then he gets, you know, he gets kind of his big break, not really big break, but he starts up his own studio and starts doing horror films. Of course, he releases I Will Take Your Soul at Midnight. And of course, it was kind of like very hit and miss with the people in Brazil. Like, they actually thought he was very odd and strange, and nobody really wanted to work with him because they didn't understand his films. I guess it's kind of a product of its time. You know, in Brazil, nobody was really doing these type of things, so he was very misunderstood, had a lot of problem with money, and, you know, so he had his own studio, and everything was very, very low budget. But he had a lot of problems making films, which, of course, like I said, is a product of his times, right? So I thought that was very interesting. He goes into history, like, you know, those type of films, and it explores more about his films in the 60s and shit like that. They spent a lot of time on, what's the film? Awakening the Beast. Yeah, Awakening the Beast. They spend actually quite a long time when they get to that film because, you know, after, you know, Coffin Joe had been completely misunderstood. People didn't really want to work with him. Now, the censors kind of caught up with him after this. You know, they kind of saw his films and are like, okay, wow. There's a lot of problems in the Brazil at the time. So now comes along this film, Awakening the Beast. Now, censorship in Brazil is at an all-time high. This film gets fucking banned for 20 years. They want to cut the shit out of this, and it just kind of like really hurts his career a little bit. You know, he just he just wants to make films, and he's having such a rough time, of course, with the censorship and stuff like that. So it goes into the whole censorship thing about Brazil, which you really want. I wanted to hear more about it. You know, it goes into it for about 10 minutes or whatnot and stuff, but I just kind of wanted to hear more about his old films and more of the processes and stuff. But he does tell some really interesting stories about when he's making films in the 60s. And he was telling this one story about a film. I can't even remember if it was one that was unfinished or not. Oh, no, yeah, it is unfinished. So basically what happened was, you know, a lot of people thought that he was strange, kind of cursed and shit like that. And he was doing this film, and this actress actually apparently ate too much, jumped off a diving board, you know, before they started filming, and she died. And then another actress, so he had to replace her, and then another actress ended up dying too. And then so he had to rehire another one. She gets in a car accident, loses her leg. So then he abandons the project, of course. And then there was, like, you know, he's telling some really odd stories about another. He's on the set of another film, and the cinematographer jokingly says to Coffin Joe, he says, "Oh, who's going to die on this film?" And oddly enough, they take the cinematographer to the hospital 4 hours later, and he dies of, like, some unknown complications or some shit like that. So he's got some pretty interesting stories about the sets and stuff. You know, it explores like that, and then it gets into the 80s where, you know, basically he was having a lot of hard times making films, and he wasn't making any money off his films. Like, he was very kind of famous in certain areas, but he didn't have any money to his name. A lot of that is personal stuff, which they don't really go into a lot, which is kind of a shame. It kind of hints at that he was kind of an alcoholic, but it is put out there that his films really didn't make any money. But he was a very artistic person and kind of wanted to, you know, do his own thing, so he kind of leveled himself out there a little bit. But it gets into the 80s, and it talks about when he started shooting porn movies, because there was no money in horror, so he started shooting porn films, and he shot actually the very first bestiality porn film. Of course, a girl and her dog and shit like that. It goes into that a little bit, which I thought was quite interesting. And then another actually interesting fact in this thing was the Coffin Joe films, or, you know, Martin's films, weren't actually released in America until the early 90s, which I thought was quite interesting. It took that long to come over, you know. It took over 20-25 years for his films to actually hit America. So once they did, you know, he gained a whole new he became popular again and stuff like that. But, you know, it very kind of scratches the surface on so many elements of, you know, through the 60s, 70s, and 80s and into the 90s. And then, of course, this documentary was done in 2001. You know, it's interesting, but I just wanted so much more from this documentary. It's 65 minutes. I could have watched a whole another hour of this, you know, getting into more things. But there is a lot of interesting things that keep you, you know, it keeps you interested throughout the whole thing. There's never a down moment in this. I will say, of course, it is in Spanish, so it is subtitles, so you have to read this one. But there's a lot of good imagery. It shows clips of his, you know, his famous films. You know, at midnight I'll take your soul. At this night I'll possess your corpse. You know, things like that, right? Awakening the Beast. And there's this really cool thing that he actually never got a chance to use. He actually had this. Actually, you know what? I won't even say it. Just watch the documentary. Don't want to ruin everything, but pretty interesting stuff. Just wanted a lot more. If I had to rate this one, I definitely would give it about a 7 out of 10. But no more. I just, like I said, I wanted another hour of this, man. Really, really well. Really, like, a lot more. Now, I really hope someone actually makes another documentary about Coffin Joe and just explores everything that he has to offer. He's got some pretty interesting stories, and he was a very interesting filmmaker. He's very down to earth, kind of does his own thing, and I respect that in a filmmaker. You know, he just really just kind of learned it right from the ground up, and, you know, from living in a theater, which I think is fantastic. So, you know, and coming from a country where this was looked upon as being very heavy shit, you know, almost to the point of, like, being shunned in society kind of thing. So, but yeah, check out this documentary. It's on this box set. I believe it's the only way to get it, actually. I don't think it has a solo release. So, but yeah, guys, that's gonna do it for week 85. I do recommend the documentary. It's just, like I said, I warn you, it is short. So anyways, guys, that's gonna do it for week 85 here. We'll be back next week in 86. Hope to see you then. Peace out.